Welcome to the How to Feel Good podcast, the show that's focused on, you guessed it, feeling good. But what does that even mean? The world we live in is full of distractions. We've been disconnected from our true nature and led down a path of emotional turmoil, frustration, and never-ending hustle. With so much pressure to conform and perform, so many of us have no idea what it actually means to truly feel good. It's not as complicated as you might think. In fact, it's rather simple once you get into it. You just have to forget everything society taught you, detach from your mind and body, and become the conscious driver of your meat robot. I'm Jen Garrett, and for the past 15 years, I've been studying the human mind, body, and soul at an incredibly deep and nerdy level. With this knowledge, I've completely transformed my own life and am now on a mission to help others do just the same thing. So if you're ready to stop feeling bad and start feeling good, come join me.
Hello, you beautiful humans, and welcome to another episode of the How to Feel Good podcast. I should say the new and improved How to Feel Good podcast, as I'm sitting here in my fancy little recording room using this fancy new microphone that I'm pointing at if you're watching this on the YouTube version and you're just hearing in the audio version. Also connected to my new MacBook. Not just like starting this episode with a major flex, but like I upgraded, guys. And like not only upgraded my physical materialistic surroundings, but also I've gone through a massive upgrade, which is part of why I haven't produced an episode in I think February 4th was the last time I posted one. And I do want to extend a very heartfelt apology, very sincerely, to those of you who have been missing the podcast. I know that I have a number of diehard listeners who really get a lot out of this show, and I just kind of stopped doing it without any notice. I guess I kind of alluded to it in the last couple episodes that things had been getting really difficult as far as the number of things on my plate, and specifically, in all transparency, the amount of money that I was making as an entrepreneurial single mom living in the clusterfuck that is our society at present. I was having a hard time making ends meet. I had to buy a new car, all of that stuff, right? If you're a regular listener, you're familiar with that, or if you know me personally. But anyways, it's funny because the last episode that I made was entitled Do Hard Things, about how to push yourself into doing hard things, and that it builds resilience. And it's very, very important to do that. But what happened is that I was trying to push myself to continue recording the podcast because I felt this external pressure to be productive in a period of time, specifically astrologically and then personally, where I needed to just do nothing. I really needed to do nothing and do nothing without guilt tripping myself about doing things, or having, that little nagging voice that's in the back of your head that's you're valueless unless you're producing. You're going to be forgotten. Everybody's going to unfollow you. Nobody's going to participate in your programs. Nobody's going to buy coaching from you if you don't produce this podcast. But here's the thing. If you push yourself to do shit when you don't want to do it, you're literally depleted. Especially me as a manifesting generator, talking human design lingo. If you're not familiar with it, go back and listen to the episodes that I did on human design. But my energetic type is basically I'm a battery. Whatever I feel is what I radiate around me. So if I'm producing content from a place of feeling like I should be doing it or I have to be doing it, guess what you guys feel? It doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't land. People aren't interested in it. And it just contributes to the static that's out there. Because everybody's doing this shit now too, right? We're inundated. Already we were inundated with advertising culture, but now everybody that you know is also trying to sell to you in some way, shape, or form. There's that. And then I still didn't listen to myself, right? I was getting these intuitive hits that I needed to just chill and go into a dark cave, or go into my cocoon and be the mushy caterpillar and come out as the butterfly. But I still didn't listen to it. I was trying to push through, right? Even that last episode that I produced, was really difficult, especially because I was still using my like primitive setup. As you know, as a regular listener to this podcast, or I'm going to tell you now if you're brand new, the first 29 episodes of this podcast, I just like recorded on my phone. Actually, that's wrong. The first couple, like I think 3, I recorded. A friend of mine has like a nice recording setup. And he showed me how to do it. And then after that, I downloaded a free program on my HP laptop called Audacity. And I was just like recording voice notes on my phone, taking that file, putting it on my computer and not doing anything to it. Like sometimes I would put like a fun effect or whatever on it, but I never really edited anything. Just would put the intro on, put the content on. I always just recorded in one shot like this. Like if there's a mistake, there's a mistake. Or if something happens, then I just redo it. Side note, this is actually the 4th time that I'm recording this specific episode because I tried to do it and was like, took like 4 takes the one time, was like, fuck that, can't do it. And then I actually got a good window and I recorded it with my previous setup. So I was using my phone to record the video and this wireless microphone that I had for the audio. And I got like, I think I did 2 takes and the second one was really good. And it was like a 55 minute episode. And right at the end, like as I was giving the action items, the app for the microphone just like stopped working. And I was like, ugh! But also at the same time, so like there's a large part of me that was like, for fart's sake. I just spent an hour, actually more than that, because I like get myself looking presentable, get myself all set up, like study my notes of what I'm going to say, because I always have a little like outline of what I'm going to say, and then I kind of ad lib around it. But as much as there was a part of me that was like, there was an even larger part of me that was like, okay, obviously not what I was supposed to be doing. And it was so long ago now that I'm having a hard time remembering the timeline of it. But there was also a development in my coaching business in that I successfully signed my first long-term client with my new packaging. I've been working on this new coaching experience, essentially taking all of my knowledge, like everything that I've studied over the last 15 years, from psychology to exercise science to nutrition, clean eating, environmental toxins, detoxing your body, detoxing your mind, shadow work, integration, 4th way, mystery school, astrology, tarot, human design, gene keys. Essentially, if you don't know already, like I am the investigator, right? My profile is the 5-1 in human design. So the 5 is a heretic. So I'm here to be 2 steps ahead of the game and to trigger the fuck out of a lot of people in an effort to change things. And the 1 line is needing a solid foundation of knowledge. So like, and then on top of that, I'm academically gifted. Like technically I'm a genius, guys, because I have the ability to comprehend a high level of intellectual material. I am university educated, but I mean, this started when I was young. And actually, that's kind of a good segue into what I'm going to talk about today, because I was identified as a gifted child when I was 10 years old. And that was, I mean, it started before that, but like that was really when I really started to feel like there was something wrong with me, which sounds a bit weird, right? Like you think that being identified as a gifted child, even that term, like you're gifted, is such an interesting way to say it. But I didn't see it as a gift. I just saw it as something that alienated me, right? Like, because then I was shipped off to this special program. I think it was once a month or so. We would go to these day programs at another school. And so I was like alienated from my peers. I was already weird as it was, right? And overweight. I also moved I had 3 different public schools. So I was always the new kid on the scene, fucking weird as shit and overweight, right? Not the most stylish, all of that sort of stuff. And then I go to this program with all these other kids who are so smart, and like I felt like I didn't fit in with them because they were all so smart and like doing all this crazy stuff. Their parents were also involved, and mine were not, right? So it was it was a really alienating experience very young, and that really set a tone and that taught me or gave me the belief rather that there is something wrong with me. And ever since then, I've been striving to be different, right? Like trying to fit in, like creating this avatar. Initially, it started with me like not doing well academically, right? Like sabotaging myself in a lot of ways. And I think that is a lot of where the partying and the drug abuse and the alcoholism and everything came in as well. But I didn't mean to go into that right away, but it's part of the story, right? Like, so anyways, that's the coaching that I'm doing is taking all of that information, like everything that I've learned that has taken me from a place of feeling like a giant failure, like in legit living the life of a train wreck, right? Like I had this dichotomy where I was like constantly striving for something, never feeling good enough inside, didn't even know who I was because I had created this avatar. And the incongruence that I felt, which is the incongruence is this term that we use for what is on the inside not matching the outside. And that takes energy, right? And because we are humans and humans are animals and animals are designed to save energy, incongruence takes energy. And so in order to avoid that energy leak, we rely on all sorts of coping mechanisms, right? So I was legit like an addict in so many ways, whether it was drugs or alcohol or sex or social media, exercise, disordered eating. And like I had like the sampler pack as far as disordered eating is concerned, right? And all of that was an effort to have like so I could fit in, right? And like be connected to other people. But because I wasn't being myself, and also because I had these deep-seated beliefs about how much of a piece of shit I was, I just kept attracting experiences that confirmed that, right? So I went from that place of like just absolute train wreckery. That's a good term, train wreckery. To now being like sober by choice. Like I'm not like white knuckling it. Like I legit don't want to do any of that stuff because I consciously observe my behavior and I listen to myself. And I've also like shed all of these external layers of programming, right? Like I've gotten rid of all of that self-deprecating stuff and the ego. And, I should say you never get rid of the ego. The mind and the ego are there for us intentionally. They serve a huge purpose. They keep us safe. They keep us reproducing. They keep us looking for mating opportunities and how to eat and all of that, refuel ourselves, right? And avoid predators and all that fun stuff. But I've learned how to turn that shit off, right? And now I operate from a place of like balanced bliss, like even in this shitstorm, right? Like shit has been whack the last year, 2 years. Specifically, like I've experienced some really insane conflict, interpersonal conflict. I've had roommate issues. I've had housing issues, like living in this economy, as I've mentioned. And if you're listening to this, you're likely somebody who resonates with that as well, right? So I've been living the life of a single mom in an economy where I need to make $40 an hour and minimum wage is $15. But despite all of that, I feel great, right? I really feel at peace and in balance. And the more that I embody this energy, the more the information is coming to me. So this is a really long and drawn out way to inform you that I have coaching options available. If any of that sounds like something that you need help with, I can help you. And I'm only working with one-on-one clients. I am doing one-off sessions right now. I'm calling them pattern interruption sessions. So they're $222 for 90 minutes. And I need you to answer some questions and give me your birth info ahead of time. And then it's basically like a personalized podcast episode is essentially what it'll be like. So I'll assess your situation. We will have a brief chat about it, and then I will give you some action items. I'll educate you on whatever it is that you are needing education on, and then I'll give you some action items. Now, those one-off sessions are meant to be kind of like an introductory thing, like a try it before you buy it type thing. So it's not necessarily like you could keep purchasing them, because once I start working with somebody, I really get deep into their energy. So this is why I'm only selling packages in 3-month minimums, so like 3, 6, or 12 months. And there's a light and a more intense package. So the light package is doing one full-on session a month, and then 3 days a week we have voice note support, where I basically act like a mirror and provide you little tips and tricks and exercises and even just accountability and all of that through to help like get the action items some traction, right? Because that's the other thing that I found with doing shorter packages or like one-off sessions is that it tends to be an information dump, guys. Like, I'm a fucking encyclopedia. I have so much to say, and because I'm a manifesting generator, it's like, whoa! Like, it literally just pours out of me, and it's overwhelming to people. And, because of the nature of the work, it's uncomfortable, right? So unless you've got a good internal push or like a lot of intrinsic motivation in order to do the work, it just doesn't take hold unless you've got that like commitment to it, right? So if you're interested in any of that, shoot me. Like, I'll put the link for I ditched my website as I'm rebranding myself right now. And so I'll put that link of how you can contact me in the show notes if you're interested on that, if you want to try a session, or if you're interested in taking the leap into a big package. I did sell a year-long package, which is what enabled me to invest the money into upgrading myself. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. Honestly, like, I'm not a tech-oriented person. I've been really trying to like get through it, but like having these upgrades is just going to make it so much easier. Plus, I'm also, so like here I'm saying it, guys, like I'm going to do podcasts bi-weekly right now. If I am able to get enough traction and stop doing the other side businesses that I'm doing, I'll be able to increase that. But right now, my plan is to do bi-weekly podcasts and then have on the off weeks, I'm going to start producing shorts for YouTube that are less me talking like this and more just like, here's the points. Here's how you do this. Like, kind of if you're a fan of Teal Swan, like that's kind of the model that I'm going for. I want to produce these short videos that help to inform people of different ways of looking at things so that they can take that information and apply it to themselves. Because ultimately, that's really what I'm doing. Like, yes, this is a business for me. I am trying to create a lifestyle for myself where I have freedom so that I'm even more radiant and able to share that energy. Because again, as a manifesting generator, the whole point of my existence is to know myself, satisfy myself, and then radiate that shit into the collective so that you guys can feed off of it, right? Like, the more people that we have feeling satisfied, the better chance we have of pulling humanity up out of this nosedive that we're in right now, right? So, I'm trying to make money to, like, support myself. So if you're interested in donating to the show, there'll also be a note in the show notes. A comment in the, whatever, you know what I mean? Look in the place wherever you're listening to this. There's some sort of information attached to this episode. So go ahead and make a donation, which will help me to produce the episodes more regularly. Or if you're interested in the coaching, that also will help give me a little bit of a financial pocket so that I can stop like cleaning houses and doing other things. I'm also actually just started a job doing sales for a kombucha company that I love. They're based out of this small beach town near where I live. And I'll probably still keep doing that just because I love doing sales. I love going out and meeting people. Being a solopreneur and like cleaning houses is pretty isolating, right? Like I don't have coworkers. I don't really even have a lot of friends right now because the thing is when you wake up to the reality of the universe, like you can't go back. So like, I don't want to go drink beers. I don't want to talk about celebrities. I don't want to talk about other people. I don't want to talk about my problems even. I just want to be radiant and loving and like walk barefoot in the woods and go to the beach and like pick up rocks and stare at the sun and, like shit like that. Right. So anyways, a bit more of a tangent that I was going to go on there, but I feel like that's just the way this show is. I feel a little rusty, to be honest with you, so I got to get back in the flow of this. So I'm kind of excited to have this newfound commitment and my new recording setup so that it makes it a bit easier for me to get my flow on here. So now, that being said, here we go into today's episode, okay? So this topic came to me a while ago, actually, after I recorded the last episode. Oh, here's another funny story I'll tell you. Okay. So after the last episode, it was like beginning of February. I was trying to do some online dating at that point. But there was a belief that I had within me that people don't understand me and that there's no men in Ontario that are enlightened. What a silly belief to have. But like, you know, it's the way it is, I guess, in my brain. So anyways, I had a really like the most disappointing dating experience like I think I've ever had. The person lived out of town and like we had talked for a week ahead of time. But like you don't get to know somebody through texting and Snapchatting, right? Like, so anyways, I went to meet this person and it was like, I'm not going to go into the details, but like, it was extremely disappointing and like negative. And it really like shook me and it made me like delete dating apps fully again. I mean, like I'd already been banned from Tinder for saying, don't contact me if you're into masks and sanitizer and stuff like that, because we're not going to match. Anyways, that threw me for a loop. And it really like, I think it was a really good catalyst actually that put me into a lot of this deep work that I've been doing the last couple of months. I've also been working with a beautiful mushroom called Amanita muscaria. I said it right, Joseph. Like it took me, my friend Joseph had to teach me how to pronounce that for so long. I couldn't get it for some reason. But it's like that characteristic, like the red top with the white dots on it. And it's been given a real bad rep because it's actually like super helpful as far as lifting trauma and emotional patterns from your body. It's said to be very toxic, but there's not actually any proof of that. Like it's kind of like how they say psilocybin is bad for you, right? But in reality, it's because psilocybin, like mushrooms, magic mushrooms, like there's more fungi on the earth than animals and people, right? Like there's a giant network of mushrooms that runs underneath of everything. And so when you ingest these creatures, because they're like part animal, part plant, when you ingest that shit, it connects you to that, right? So through using psilocybin and also Amanita muscaria. Amanita muscaria is not like psychotropic in the way the dosage that I've been taking. It is mildly like a sedative in some ways. So it's like a nighttime thing for me. Otherwise, I just sit there and like meditate for hours. But through using that over the last couple months, I've really like pulled all of these layers off of myself and like gone really deep into them because there's nothing wrong with me. And like for a long time, I thought that there was. And because I thought there was something wrong with me, there was. Okay, does that make sense to you guys, right? Like because I had these beliefs that I was inherently different than other people, that I am too much, that I'm not enough, that I'm too smart, that I'm overwhelming. I kind of said those things in a multitude of different ways. Or like my body's not attractive, even though I'm like physically fit, I still have loose skin, right? So like things like that. Because I had those beliefs about me, I was always trying to be better and different, but not rooted in love. Okay, so the main message that I want to get across in today's episode is that there's nothing wrong with evolution and improvement. That is what we're here to do. We're born into these bodies to learn lessons and overcome them, right? To stop the pattern, interrupt that pattern that's just we're going on autopilot. We're just operating at the level of our environment. We're just doing the human things. We're just using our body to get things from the environment, or we're using our body to distract ourselves from the environment, right? We're numbing our body. We're numbing our senses, all of these things, right? So it's not deep, right? Like we're doing it on a surface level. And part of this has to do with the concepts that are brought up in the documentary I talk about all the time, The Century of the Self, which is the 4-part docuseries by the BBC, which recounts, what the heck? That's not even a word, guys. It recounts the story of how our psychology has been used against us. Like they figured out that our emotions are the key to human behavior, right? If you can control somebody's emotions, you can make them do whatever you want. Because remember, the emotions are your electromagnetic hormonal chemical reaction to the environment. So they cause you, like you perceive things from the environment, it causes an emotion, which then tells your brain how to react, and vice versa, right? So whatever you think creates emotions in your body, and then that is communicated to the environment. So if you get people to be sad and stressed out and angry and jealous and insecure and feeling bad about themselves in a way that they're comparing themselves to other people all the time, you can get them to buy shit. That's really what it comes down to, okay? It's all based on us being controlled in a way that supports the economy, which is controlled by like a handful of families, okay? Now, regardless of whether you believe me or not, that's fucking true, okay? Look into well, don't Google it because Google's owned by these companies, right? But there's a company called Vanguard and there's a company called BlackRock, and they basically own everything, okay? We know who's the CEO of BlackRock. It's Larry Fink. But we don't know. Nobody knows who's in Vanguard. But it's likely like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Bushes and, all these old money families that have commodified our existence and like control the means of production for everything. And so in order to like the rationale behind it, right? If you watch the Century of the Self, they came to this like as a way to help humanity, right? Humanity is inherently evil, and like if we aren't controlled, we'll just destroy ourselves, right? That's based off of Freud's theories, right? Which, I mean, Freud was paid by these people to come up with that, right? There's a big split in psychology. Like before Freud, it was more based in philosophy, and like humanistic psychology is all about like self-actualization. If you look at the work of Carl Jung, Carl Rogers, Maslow, like these people, Adler as well, like the idea is that humans are looking to evolve. Like we want to self-actualize. We just have to move up the rungs, right? Everything is this evolution of us going from lower density beings operating at the fear band of emotions in order to keep ourselves safe, right? Again, to just reiterate that point, there's nothing wrong with the fear band of emotions. It's not bad in any way, shape, or form. There isn't even anything as bad, guys. There's no bad, there's no good. There's just things. Like the entire universe exists within a polarity. Like for everything, there's an opposite thing, okay? So we need these emotions, but we need to be able to evolve out of them. We need to be able to turn that shit off when there's not a fucking cat chasing us, right? Or a bear or a tiger, whatever it is. Right? That's what those emotions and that level of experience is for. And previous to our current existence, we needed that shit, right? Like life as a prehistoric human, or like in medieval times in the dark ages, like it was horrific. Like if you went back in time, you would have a bad time. It smells terrible. Like the food is awful. You could get shanked at any given time, right? Like women got raped all of the time. Like that kind of shit happened all the time. So like, and we are all descendants of the people who survived, right? So we obviously have those tendencies in us, whether it's in our like DNA or it's like inherited genetic trauma, right? Like these things live within us. And so when we're triggered, we have these responses to keep us safe and keep us proliferating the species and procreating, right? But the problem is that we're supposed to be having those responses, but we're supposed to be able to turn them off, right? But these powers that be have understood this. They put all this time and energy into studying human psychology and how we operate in order to control us under the guise of us needing it because we're not able to control ourselves. But in actuality, it's because it keeps us like cattle, okay? And it keeps us buying shit so that we support their interests, okay? So when your body is triggered in any way, shape, or form, we're being poisoned in our water and our food and our air, all of that triggers you, right, off the hop, right? And then we've got EMFs, we've got social media, we've got advertising bombarding us, and all of this has been going on for fucking generations, folks. It's so deep in our existence that we don't even realize it's a thing for the most part, okay? The average person sees literally thousands of fucking advertisements every single day. And all of those advertisements are specifically designed to target your emotions to make you feel like shit about yourself so that you buy something. Okay, so if you feel like there's something wrong with you, it's not your fault. It's because you're just a human living in a society that's literally doing that to you intentionally to get you to buy shit. Okay, so that's the difference that I want to really point out and that I really want to highlight within this episode is that there's nothing wrong with wanting to be better. But there is something wrong with feeling like you're not good enough the way that you are right now. Hey, do you see the difference here in what I'm talking about? Okay, there's nothing wrong with striving to be, I have big, huge goals, like great, great big goals, okay? And I also have little goals, right? Like I love going to the gym. I want to get stronger. I want to deadlift 300 pounds. I want to have great, nice big shoulders and a big old booty. And I want to be able to see my abs without like having specific lighting, which I'm almost there actually. Can you see them? Oh, kind of. Right, I have these little goals. I want to be better with my time management. I want to be better with my finances, right? I want to have a closer and more supportive relationship with my daughter, right? I want to write a bunch of books. I want to produce a bunch of videos. I want to have an academy for people to come to. The Feel Good Academy is still happening. I just needed to take a step back from that because this foundation wasn't solid enough, right? So the idea with that is a bunch of people coming together. And anyways, that's not what I was trying to talk about. But the point is that I have big goals. I want to move somewhere where it's warm all of the time. I want to have a property where I grow my own food. I want to have people come and live and build tiny houses on it and like have a whole community. I want to homeschool my child. I want to like help elevate humanity, right? So I have all of these goals. But I'm never going to accomplish any of that shit if I'm just sitting in a mess of like how much I suck, right? It kind of like the best example of this that I can think of is with weight loss, right? Like I have gained and lost hundreds of pounds in my life, folks. Hundreds of pounds if you count all the times I've gained weight and lost weight, gained weight and lost weight, gained weight and lost weight. Because the motivation behind me wanting to lose weight, was always rooted in self-loathing. I was always punishing myself and restricting myself with the motivation that I needed to do this because I was inherently bad, I was unattractive, and nobody was going to love me in the way that I was, right? So that shit feels bad. And remember what I just said about how humans want to feel good, right? I've said this a million fucking times on this episode, not this episode, this whole podcast, right? It's basically what the whole show is about. Is that we're wired to feel good, and most of the time we feel bad. But we're not aware of that. So then we like get ourselves into coping mechanisms, right? Whatever your vice of choice is, whether it's a substance, whether it's a person, whether it's shopping, whether it's gambling, whether it's social media, whether it's Netflix, whatever it is, right? So I was never able to like keep the weight off, except actually, there is one point in time where I was able to maintain a physique that was like socially acceptable. And that was when I was working full time in the fitness industry, because there was this other external motivator, this voice that was telling me, nobody's going to hire you as a trainer if you're fat. Nobody wants a chubby trainer, right? So I was like, I had this constant outside pressure to exercise and eat well, but because I still felt like I was a piece of shit, I then just took all that energy and put it into alcoholism, drug abuse, and a sex addiction, and a series of relationships with narcissistic, sociopathic, men who were manipulating me, because that's what I was doing, right? That's what I was, so that's what I attracted. So it wasn't until I quit the fitness industry and had my whole spiritual evolution. I'm not going to go through that whole story again, but, in early 2020, after not working out regularly for a year, I'd gained a bunch of weight. I was like over 200 pounds again, but I didn't realize it because I love the shit out of myself. Like I loved myself so hard, and most of my clothes were like stretchy. So I didn't really realize until I did a photo shoot and like saw it from another angle. I was like, oh shit. So how do I do this? Like, how do I lose weight without hating myself? Right. And that's where all of this stuff has come from. It's like this idea that you actually are more successful in achieving your goals when you feel good the way that you are, because like attracts like, because what you think is what you fucking get. Remember that your beliefs influence your behaviors, which influence the experiences that you have, which then influence the emotions that you're experiencing. And then the emotions are the tie of everything. They connect it all, right? So the emotions that you're feeling create more thoughts. Right? It reinforces the initial thought that you have, and the brain is like, okay, yeah, that's what I thought, that's what I'm seeing, that's what I'm feeling, so we're gonna just keep thinking that, right? So if you're like, oh my god, I'm overweight, I need to lose weight, or oh man, I'm not making enough money, or oh my god, I'm not organized enough, or like, oh, I can't seem to find a lasting relationship, I need to change in order to attract somebody, right? it sounds like what you should be doing. And there's a whole industry based off of that kind of mentality of like, just be better, work through it, hustle, grind, work your full-time job and spend time with your family and then build your business at fucking midnight till 3 a.m. Like, no, right? That's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be enjoying your life and resting. And from that place of like fully embodying your presence and like feeling the joy and the bliss that comes from watching the fucking sunset or the birds and the squirrels. Oh, it's springtime here in Canada right now. It's like my favorite, seeing all these little animals running around, right? That is the shit that gets your body into a place of expansion, right? When you're feeling spacious, you're moving towards different options, right? When we're coming at our goals from a place of feeling like there's something wrong with us, that's contracted. That's closed off because it feels bad. It feels bad, and and when you feel bad, when you have these negative beliefs, you're constantly looking in your environment to confirm these negative beliefs. That's triggering emotions in your body that are part of the fear band. Okay, these emotions that you're experiencing as a result of confirming the evidence that you're a piece of shit and that you need to change is creating tension in your body because it's correlated with that fear band, which requires you to be vibrating at the level of your environment, seeking out food, seeking out mating opportunities, and avoiding predators, right? So it's contracted. It's not spacious. There's no room for anything else, right? And if you're actually going to change, you need to think outside the box because you can't get somewhere you've never been by doing the same things you keep doing, right? In order to get something different, you have to do different things, and you literally cannot see what is different or have the energy to do anything different when you're operating from a place of fucking scarcity or feeling like you're a piece of shit. Okay, do you understand how this is all working, folks? Okay, it's not woo-woo. It's not weird spiritual shit. This is literally physiological science, okay? This is how your body works. This is how your brain works. We are here to understand this stuff and detach yourself from the mind, right? Like pull yourself out of your mind and into your body more often. And from that space and really loving yourself, right? Like when you look at the deepest parts of your soul and you accept those. Oh my God, I feel like I'm going to cry. I just got like huge chills actually. When you like look so deep inside yourself and you see all of that shit that you thought you needed to hide from everybody, or you thought that you needed to change, or you thought made you less than an average person, when you see that shit and you love it, it just like I literally am like, I'm feeling super emotional just even thinking about it because it's been so powerful for me. Like it's literally changed my life by being able to look inside of myself and accept myself in the mess. Okay? I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. Perfect is a fucking illusion, okay? I'm not where I want to be yet, but where I'm at is fine. I'm fucking great. Okay? I'm a beautiful human and I have like everything that I need within me. Okay. And by having that belief, it's something that has been, a few years in the making, obviously, but the more that you think that way, the easier it is to think that way. Okay. It's hard for me now to think negatively about myself, or like when I do, I'm still triggered in some ways. Body image is a big one I'm working on right now. My loose skin is something that I'm really trying to come to terms with. So when I feel those thoughts, right, because I've been practicing these exercises and like this way of being for so long, I can feel it in my body when I'm having a negative thought. And then because I'm not attached to my mind, I'm observing my mind most of the time. I'm really like hanging out in my heart or my solar plexus most of the time. So I can feel it when the mind takes over. And then I can pull myself down and I can like do the work to mitigate that, right? And like get myself into a space of feeling more spacious. And by doing that, that literally changes my energetic signature. It makes me more attractive. It makes people trust me more, and it makes me able to see things in a different way, right? That's how I've gotten to the position that I'm in right now, is a series of unpredictable events that wouldn't have happened if I had just been operating in this tunnel vision of like thinking that I needed to do things a certain way and like following the same pattern over and over again. Okay. So, I think this notes the blah, 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 the notes that I made for this episode did not go in the order that I just said. So let me just look and make sure I said all the things, because that's basically the gist of it. Like, that's the takeaway that I want you guys to understand, is that there's nothing wrong with you, and once you can accept that there's nothing wrong with you, then it becomes easier to change the things that are less than ideal, if they need to change, right? But you're going to be more likely to actually change if you can accept yourself as you are. Okay. I did a whole episode on shadow work. Actually, I think I did 2 episodes on shadow work so far, and also hosted a free 90-minute shadow workshop where I give you actionable items. I'll put the link. Actually, the link for that is in the website. I'm using this website called Stay On With Me. It's like a one-stop shop for creators. If you're somebody who's wanting to get into creating content without having to create a website, if you're wanting to start an online business and anything like this, like whether you're selling services or physical products, the website that I will link here is like beautiful for that. So it's like a one-stop shop. You literally have everything, and all you have to do is just like type the stuff in. You don't have to do any web design or like any of that weird coding shit that I don't understand. But anyways, if you're interested in more specifics of how to do shadow work, because it really, in order to do these action items, the shadow work is just something everybody should do, because really we've been brainwashed into thinking that life is like perfect, and that if you're not perfect, there's something wrong with you, right? And if you feel like there's something wrong with you, there's going to be something wrong with you. Okay. Just to reiterate that one more time. So, because we're at 40 minutes here, I wanted to make this episode a bit shorter. I actually have lunch to go to with a friend. I'm going to get right into the action items for today's episode. Okay. So, guess what the first one is, guys? Can you guess? Leave me a comment if you guessed it correctly, okay? It's clear the static in your body. Guys, you can't do anything when you're triggered. Okay, so I've talked about this in detail in a lot of the earlier episodes, so I'm just going to rhyme these things off real quick. I already think I did them in this episode as well, but it's like environmental toxins. We're literally being poisoned, okay? Processed foods, refined sugars, alcohols, preservatives, dyes in our food, all of that shit. Same thing goes for the products that we're using. So cleaning products, fragrances, cosmetics. I say cleaning products. I think I did say that already, right? But like laundry detergent, like things like this are neurotoxins. Okay. So, textiles even, right? So like fast fashion, there's a lot of stuff. There's like concerning evidence coming out of places like companies like Fashion Nova and Shein, that like there's fucking neurotoxins in the clothes, and your skin is your biggest organ. It's fucking porous. Like whatever you put on your body, it absorbs. Okay. So those sorts of things. Drinking water, don't drink tap water, don't drink plastic water, like water that's been stored in plastic. Get yourself a nice filter. Your food, your fruits and vegetables need to be organic. Factory farm meat gives you fear and antibiotics and hormones, and also those animals eat corn, which is high in omega-6 versus omega-3s. Omega-6 causes more inflammation and makes us fatter also. Not that being overweight is a bad thing, but like as far as like accepting yourself where you're at, right? Like I'm never going to be super thin. Like I'm going to always be a bit squishy, but it's about your health, right? And like how you feel and how your organs are able to operate. So that's clearing the static in as far as environmental toxins. Oh, our air is polluted, right? We live in, Wi-Fi, like we're like having Wi-Fi all over us all of the time, right? So spending less time on your cell phone. Like your phone is a radiation device. When the battery is low on your phone, it actually gives off more radiation as well, and you should never use it while it's charging. Shungite is a great crystal that you should invest in. Keep it in and around your electronic devices. It helps to absorb some of those EMFs. Yeah, so that's like the environmental stuff, okay? So like trying to avoid those sorts of things and making changes. I know it's overwhelming, okay? Like it's really hard to get out of that system, especially considering the price point associated with that. Like my groceries too. I've been eating the same way for like 4 or 5 years, and my expenses have gone up. Like it's almost like 100% more expensive than it used to be to eat this way. But I refuse to eat fucking poison because it literally makes me feel like shit. Okay, even factory farm meat. Like I can literally because I was plant-based for so long, and now I only eat good quality meat. when I eat something that has been raised in fear, I can feel it. Like I had an experience on Christmas Eve where I ate a piece of ham because I just wanted to fit in. Everybody was eating it and it was the only thing. So I ate some of it. And then I did psilocybin that night, and I like had a full on first person out of body experience where I was like in the perspective of like a whole bunch of animals being slaughtered. It was terrible. Because that was the fear, right? It was the fear in the fucking meat. And like, I don't want to scare you, but I also want to motivate you to make better choices with what you're putting into your body, because it's way easier to do this work when you're not dealing with the constant triggers that are happening from your body. Because remember, when your body is triggered, it triggers your mind, right? And then it puts you into that closed off state of contraction, right? You can't do anything different when you're in a state of being triggered. Okay, so the environmental stuff and what you're putting into your body and what you're putting onto your body is super important. Also, your diet includes what you're consuming, right? So be mindful of who you're paying attention to online, and the influencers that you're giving your attention to should be making you feel more spacious and expansive and making you feel better about yourself. And not making you feel like you need to do more or be better or like buy something, right? Like those are the big red flags. Think about the best way to tell like whether the people that you're following are helping you or not is like to pay attention to how your body's feeling when you're consuming their content. Right? Like, are you in your body or are you in your head? Like, is your body tense or are you feeling spacious? Right? That's the idea. I went through, like, my Instagram, I unfollowed so many people because of that. I was just like, I don't need to see this. There's already enough ads on that platform as there is anyways, right? Same thing with Facebook. My Facebook really went through a whole decluttering over the last couple years. I mean, some of that was other people defriending me because I have controversial beliefs. I want everybody's grandma to die. So silly. I also don't care about anybody but myself, which is kind of true. I mean, like, I do care about humanity, but the thing is here's the thing, folks. The illusion of separation is the thing, right? We're not individual beings. We're literally one being that's seeing ourselves through a multitude of different ways. So me being selfish and caring about myself more than anybody actually means that I care about everybody. But anyways, that's a really important action item, okay? And I know it's a lot. It's a great big old action item, but you can just do little bits at a time, right? The more that you do it, the easier it gets. And you'll start to see how making these changes really affects the way that you feel. And then it becomes more motivational. It's not something you have to do. It's something that you want to do because it just makes you feel better, right? So now after that, here are some like tangible items as far as setting goals. Or coming to terms, like getting yourself into the right framework and mindset in order to actually change successfully. So I want you to make a list of all of the things that you want to change about yourself. Okay, this sounds a bit counterintuitive, right? Because I literally just said for like 45 minutes about how you're fine the way that you are. But we all have things that we want to change, right? So make a list of all the things you want to change. Now, I want you to consider why. For each item, go through and think about why you want to change, okay? I can bet you dollars to donuts that most of them are rooted in a motivation that's external, right? Like you want to fit in. You want to be more attractive. You want to be more successful, right? These are the things. So be honest with yourself because it's for you, okay? Nobody's going to read this fucking list. Unless you want to share it with me, I'd be interested to hear some of this stuff. So shoot me a message or leave me a comment on YouTube if you're watching it there. Okay, now the next part of this exercise is to consider what would happen if it never changed. How would you feel? Okay, and then make peace with that. Okay, accepting worst case scenario and making peace with it is one of the most important things that I've done in my spiritual practice and the evolution that I've experienced to be the person that I am. Specifically, like this is related to a fear of our own mortality is really what it all boils down to, right? And I think I did a whole episode on this as well. I kind of have to go back and look into my episodes. So it's been so long now. And half the time I'm like channeling. So I'm like, what did I even fucking say? I don't know. But a lot of this, like why we want to fit in is because we're afraid we're going to die, right? Like we humans need connection. As much as you can give yourself, like everything that exists within you exists outside of you with a microcosm to the macrocosm, right? You can literally satisfy all your own needs yourself. yourself. However, we are built for connection. Like, we are here to connect with other people and have community. It's built into us. Like, it's a need that we have. Okay. But we need to do that from a heart-centered place of accepting ourselves and knowing ourselves so that we can actually show up as our real selves and have ourselves seen as who we are, right? The connections that we have now are superficial because they're based on these avatars that we've created based on advertising archetypes to fit into a culture that is not even designed for human society, right? So we desire that connection, but we don't know how to get it, right? And so this stirs up that fear of our mortality, because also when it comes down to it, like, if you get kicked out of the tribe, you fucking die, right? Like, humans aren't meant to live on our own. We're supposed to help each other. That's part of why all of our North American families are so fucked, guys. Okay, there's been a war on the nuclear family, or even the idea of a nuclear family is fucked. We're supposed to have extended families, right? We're not supposed to ship our elderly people off to hospitals and nursing homes. Like, we're supposed to take care of them until they die, right? Because they help us. They give us wisdom, right? We're supposed to, even actually, it's been really nice living with my sister because we both are single moms. So it's nice to, like, I help with her kids, or my daughter babysits her kids too, right? Like, and the connections there is good for us. That's how we're supposed to live. We need connection. So anyways, that's a bit of a tangent there. But in order to get connection, you have to know yourself, right? Because you need to show up as your full self. So you need to make peace with worst case scenario and come to accept yourself just as you are. Okay, if those things don't change, you can still love yourself. You can still be successful. You can still be happy, because all of those things are based on what you feel and what you think and what you believe. So if you believe that you can be happy, you can be fucking happy, right? There's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, folks. We're not like striving for anything here. We're just supposed to be. We're just supposed to be, right? So we're like, having that understanding and accepting that neutral paradigm releases you from that fear of mortality, because, well, you're gonna die anyways. So why not just enjoy the fucking squirrels and the sunset and the air that you're breathing and the time with your family, like the things that you're eating, right? Like, be with what you're doing. So, and now I just kind of like went into a tangent as far as other action items. So the next thing I have written down here is, like, instead of hiding or being ashamed or forcing yourself to change, go within yourself and find the aspects that are crying for love, right? So, like, if one of these action items is really difficult, right? Like, you're trying to make peace with it and you're just like, I just need to change this about me, right? That means that there's a part of you that's inside that is just hurting and needs love. We all have multiple personalities. Teal Swan talks a lot about the concept of fragmentation. I'm probably going to do an episode on it soon too, actually, because it's a huge part of my work and what I do with my clients. So anyways, there's a part of you that needs love, right? So love is always the answer. Accept that part of you, right? If you accept it and bring it into your heart and accept and like love it, it's going to stop acting out. Really is what it is. And then the last point here, I already rambled about this, so I'm going to make this short and sweet, but remember that the process is the reward. The path is what we're here for. Okay. I already said there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's not like once you achieve your goals, you're going to be happy. That's not going to work. There's no correlation between success and happiness, folks. The correlation is about your beliefs about yourself and then the external reality reflecting that, right? So if you can choose to be satisfied in any situation. Some of the poorest countries, like the people who are like, we view them in the first world as like poor and depraved, all those poor folks without electricity and social media and cell phones. That's so bad. They're fucking happy, guys. Like, if you rate their happiness, because they're living in connection to nature, they're connected to each other, they're just being, right? There's no pressure to get a fancy job. There's no pressure to have the newest clothes. There's no pressure to get a butt lift, like have plastic surgery, right? Like, because they just are. They don't pay attention to that shit because it's not important to them. Right? All of that stuff is a social construction that's been given to us. We have all of these things done to us and all of these needs to like look and be a certain way because of advertising culture, because they want us to buy shit and support the economy, which is really just like funneling, like siphoning all the money from the bottom to the top, because ultimately money isn't even real. I'm going to do a whole episode on that too, right? Like the history of money and how, really, there's a group of people that just have the power to create whatever money they want, and then it's the onus is on us as the proletariat to like go out into the world and create the money, right? Like we're mining the resources, we're doing the labor, and that's creating the money. That's to back the made up money. But anyways, that's a whole tangent. Now I'm already at almost an hour, so. Gosh, it feels good to be back, folks. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I would super appreciate it if you left me a review or a rating. I was doing a contest for that, but I literally had like 2 people leave ratings. So I'm going to do it. Let's say once I get 20 reviews, then I'll do a draw, and everybody who leaves a review will get a free session. Okay. So, or a human design reading, depending on what you're interested in, whether you want to do a pattern interruption session or a human design reading. I'm not really selling the human design readings anymore because what I do is way more extensive than just one system. But I did offer that previously. So if you're interested in that, I can do that for you. All right, folks. Well, that's it for today. Stay tuned. I am going to be producing these episodes bi-weekly. I'm saying it, and now it's going to be a thing. I mean, unless, of course, some crazy thing happens. Knock on wood. All right, but that's it for today, folks. I hope that you feel good and have fun.